Almost half of people in the West Midlands who have Parkinson's disease have experienced hostility and rudeness from members of the public. The charity says an astonishing amount of people living with the disease regularly face misunderstanding of their symptoms.
Their research revealed 42% of people with Parkinson's in the region experience depression, 60% suffer from anxiety as a result of their condition, and 20% have had symptoms mistaken for drunkenness.
Parkinson's affects around 11,000 people in the West Midlands and 127,000 in the UK. Andy Bevan has been to meet one of them.
At times, this is how Parkinson's can affect 33-year-old Richard Wenmouth. He was diagnosed 7 years ago at the age of 26 after noticing his actions were getting slower. For anyone, a devastating diagnosis, but for an active young man who once ran the London Marathon, even tougher.
When I thought Parkinson's prior to having it, I thought an old person shaking, trembling, so it didn't even cross my mind to think that I'd have Parkinson's. So it came as a big shock.
As well as the usual drug treatment, last year Richard, who's from Coventry, had DBS, deep brain stimulation, which involved the planting of electrodes in his skull to help activate the areas of his brain that Parkinson's affects. That has helped, but what definitely doesn't help are the reactions of people who see him out and about and don't understand his condition.
Went to a restaurant one day, and on the way out there's two young lads, and they started sort of pointing and laughing. I was walking quite, I call it the Basil Fawlty walk, where my legs are flaring out and very exaggerated movements. And Cam sort of stepped in at that point and had a word to him, didn't he?
I turned to them and I said, that man there that you're blatantly laughing at, I said, I said, he's got Parkinson's disease. I said, he was probably diagnosed at an age not very older than you are, much older than you are. And I said, how do you think he feels knowing that you're laughing at him?
I think people look for things that are different, don't they? They're bound to be inquisitive about it. I think if you are really that inquisitive, you can either ask me, I don't mind you come and ask me what the problem is, and I'll probably tell you the problem. Or if not, just maybe keep your thoughts to yourself at that moment, or maybe home do some research and run into it maybe.
Richard Wenmouth is just like any other young husband and father. He just wants others to look past his Parkinson's and realise that. Andy Bevan, ITV News.
Well, earlier I spoke to Samantha Fitzgerald from Parkinson's UK and began by asking her what symptoms you can expect from a person with Parkinson's.
Parkinson's is a very individual condition. No two people have the same symptoms, the variations of maybe the same symptom. So it could be anything from slowness the main ones are slowness of movement, tremor. They're the most common things, but it could be they could have difficulty with their facial muscles and they're struggling to smile and express their emotions. There's so many different symptoms, but the main thing that we worry about in the context of this awareness campaign is people's mental health. We know that approximately 40 people that have Parkinson's suffer from depression, and approximately 60% of people have anxiety issues. So if you add into the mix, going out and people being rude and a bit thoughtless maybe and hostile, then that does create a bit of a barrier, and it really exacerbates the problem. People then become reluctant to go out and become more socially isolated.
And this hostility, which you talk about, happens on several occasions, is it?
It does. We did a survey fairly recently, and the figures that we have from that is that approximately 1 in 12 people will have been laughed at in the street by members of the public, and about 20% of people have been asked whether they're drunk because of their symptoms.
I mean, is this just sheer cruelty or misunderstanding?
I think it's a misunderstanding. I don't think people are, people are generally good. I don't think they mean to be malicious. So I think it's just a misunderstanding and a lack of awareness. Hence, we have our Parkinson's Awareness Week, and it's important to get that message across. And we're just asking people to just be a little bit more mindful and a bit more thoughtful.
And how would you approach a person with Parkinson's in that case?
I think that the easiest thing to do is if you see someone struggling in a supermarket, maybe with their shopping, or just ask, do you need a hand? As we would with anyone really, if we see someone struggling, you know, we've all experienced problems with rudeness and things like that, you know, but generally if you just ask someone, do you need a hand? I think people really do appreciate that, you know, and this week we're actually pledging for people to do that. We're actually asking people to pledge to do some extra acts of kindness this week. You know, in general, not just for people with Parkinson's, but in general in society, to make it a friendlier place for people with Parkinson's and people without.
Very good message to end on. Thank you, Samantha Fitzgerald.
The national and international news follows us. Let's